Hi everyone, my name is Daniela and welcome to Crafting with a Cocktail, where we make crafts and cocktails all in one segment. Super excited you're here. I've got some really cool sun and moon DIYs for you today that is in collab with my friend Wendy from Wendy's Creative Space. I'll tell you a little bit more about her in a minute, but let's hop into these DIYs. I'm so excited you're here and I hope you stay and subscribe. Cheers! We are starting off strong with this gorgeous sun DIY. I'm using this silver plate that I got from Dollar Tree, and I taped it off and just spray painted the outer rim gold. After that, I am just taking a garden pick that I got from Dollar Tree as well. I had my partner remove the stick that it was on, and then I'm just using a combination of E6000 along with some hot glue on top of that, well, in some other areas, and then placing it in the center of the plate. Then I set some somewhat heavy objects on top just to make sure it really sticks down on there, and I let it rest for several hours. In the meantime, I am taking 3 long pieces of some twine and just braiding it the traditional way, one over the other, all the way down. When I get to the bottom, I just set it off with some hot glue and then I cut it off. When my braid is ready and my sun is nice and dry onto there, I can't remember, to be honest, if I left it overnight or not. I think I might have. Then I'm just hot gluing my little braid around the edge of the plate where the gold meets the silver. I really struggled figuring out if I wanted this to sit on one of those plate holders or if I wanted to hang it. I ultimately ended up with wanting to hang it because I had some extra braid left and some really cool beads that I thought would go well with it. So I'm just sliding them on there and then tying a knot underneath them so they don't slide around too much, since this will have to be glued pretty far down on my plate because that is the part that sticks out most, and I want it to sit flush with the wall. So I hot glue that piece down, making sure that I had my beads staggered because that's the look I was going for. You could obviously put them even if you wanted that, but I liked mine staggered just to give it a little variety, something different. And then, so that it wouldn't hang funny, I needed the top of the plate that was shallower to stick out a little bit. So I'm just gluing tiny pieces of popsicle stick together. Then I'm hot gluing and super gluing that into place, hot gluing my twine on top of that, letting it dry for a bit, and then that's it. I think this DIY turned out absolutely beautiful, but I can't wait to hear what you guys think. Let me know what you think about it down below. It totally gives me like Mexican summer vibes. As I said earlier, this video is in collab with Wendy's Creative Space. I am so thankful to her for collabing with me and for going outside of her box to do this sun and moon DIY video. I hope you check her out. I'll have her information down below. I think it's about time we figure out what today's cocktail is. Obviously, we are making a tequila sunrise. Sun and moon DIYs, it made perfect sense. And if you want to know something, I actually made a different cocktail for this and then redid it because I was like, duh, why didn't I make a tequila sunrise? So we're starting out with a fat shot of your favorite tequila, a splash of grenadine, and some orange juice to top it off. Super simple, super delicious. I will say I think this drink is a bit more of an acquired taste type of thing, so it's not necessarily for everyone, but if you like tequila like I do, give it a try. I also threw in some cherries in there because I love to find them at the bottom of my drink. Moving on to our next DIY is this fun and sparkly mirror. It's really hard to see in any of these pictures, but it's got some really beautiful holographic gold glitter on it. I'm just taking some regular black acrylic paint in a round brush, and I'm painting on a moon, and then I paint some larger stars as well as some smaller ones until I'm happy with this painting. You could obviously customize this however you want. You could use any colors you want, but I don't know, I had a vision as soon as I saw this frame, which by the way was about $6 from Walmart. As a finishing touch, I used the back of my brush and added some polka dots as well. I'm not sure why, but my too muchness came in with this one. I just kept feeling like I needed more and more and more. Then I moved to the lower left corner. I liked the idea of this kind of play with balance, so I made a star down there, and again some more mini stars, some polka dots, all that good stuff. To quicken the process, I did end up using my heat gun, which I will have linked for you below if you're interested in purchasing it. Once it was all good and dry, I taped off my edges with some painter's tape so that I could start adding my glitter. I used a spray gold glitter that I had used previously with some florals and stuff, not in a video, but just in life. And it ended up leaving a little bit of a residue and not as much glitter as I had hoped. So I do end up adding some loose glitter later. For any areas where I felt like there was a little bit too much splatter, I just went in with some rubbing alcohol and maybe acetone. I can't remember, to be honest, but one of those two. Wiped it down, then grabbed some Windex and wiped it down with that to make sure it was clean and not streaky, as you can see here. But don't worry, it cleans up real nice in the end. I just wanted to use that so that I didn't have little splatter spots everywhere, because then you obviously wouldn't be able to see through it, and then your mirror is purposeless. Now I'm using a spray top coat from Mod Podge. This is not a spray adhesive, this is just an acrylic sealant. And I'm taking some loose holographic gold glitter and I'm just going to tap it over it so that it sticks to it. And this method actually worked pretty dang well. And it's kind of hard to see the glitter in picture, but let me tell you, in person, it is so beautiful. That rainbowy reflection of the glitter and everything else, it's just stunning. This is yet again another piece that I absolutely love, and I can't even tell you how gorgeous it is in person. I just need to find a place to hang it, and that's it. Hey friends, popping in one last time just to say, if you're new here, I really hope you stay and subscribe and like up this video. It really helps my channel grow, and I'm really excited to have just reached 1,000 subscribers about a week ago, and I'm so excited. I just want to keep growing and growing. So please, if you're interested, if you like me, my personality, my DIYs, my cocktails, whatever it might be, feel free to subscribe down below, leave a like, a comment, whatever feels good to you. And if you've already been subscribed, I'm super grateful for you already. You guys know that. So let's move on to our last DIY. This baby is a twofer. We are getting two gorgeous wall hangings, one sun and one moon. You'll be able to see some closer up details in just a minute. I am starting with some napkins that I bought at World Market for $1.99 and just cutting them 10 by 12 because the canvases I'm going to adhere them to are 8 by 10 and I needed some extra allowance for them to be able to wrap around the edges of the canvas. I'm using this awesome rotary cutter that my aunt bought for me, and I will link a similar one down below if you guys are interested. Here is where the details begin to matter. I'm using an embroidery hoop and I am placing my fabric in there to the sun that I want to focus on at the time. And I'm going to grab some gold thread and a needle and just start stitching in those lines. And I go around my entire piece of fabric and choose all sorts of little areas just to add some embellishment. This is a piece that again is kind of hard to picture in an overall sense, but the little details up close are so beautiful. It's seriously worth it adding this extra touch. Okay, this part doesn't have the greatest recording of screen time. I get off screen for a minute, but I'm basically just showing you that I use different stitches for different areas. Here I'm making a little, I think it's called a rose knot or something like that. Honestly, I learned it a long time ago and I don't remember. But the point is that I use different stitches depending on what I was stitching. And again, I did this all over my little piece of fabric until I was happy with it. Once that's all good to go, I'm flipping over my piece of fabric and throwing a canvas on it. This is an 8 by 10 canvas from Dollar Tree, but you can also buy them in bulk packs at Michael's and other craft stores as well. And I'm just placing it where I think it will fit best, and I'm just going to stretch it similar to the way you would hand stretch a canvas. So that would mean you would take that fabric where you see those staples and hand stretch it all out, add your gesso. This was honestly really reminiscent of art school for me, so it was kind of fun. So I'm just gluing down one edge, and the reason I'm using glue, by the way, instead of staples is if I ever want to change this out, I can just rip it off. I don't have to worry about those heavy-duty staples in there. I just keep rotating my canvas from side to side and really pulling those edges taut. Nice and pulled and stretched corner to corner. This ensures that your piece is going to turn out as even as possible. You definitely don't want it to have some loose fabric. You don't want wrinkles, so this is just a nice way to do it. Okay, let's talk about the corners. There is a way to make your corners look invisible, and as you can see here, I'm pressing into the crease, or I'm creating a crease rather, by pressing my finger in, folding it over, and then hot gluing it against the back. This is pretty sped up, but you can see it closer when I do the black canvas as well. All right, moving on to this other napkin again from World Market. It was only $1.99. I'm cutting it the same size as the other one. And I know that these are polka dots, but it really read like little tiny different moons to me. And so that's why I picked it out. I wanted one that had sun and one that had moon. And honestly, I was inspired when I had seen these fabrics. I didn't have this in mind until I had bought these. So that was really exciting. We are using a different technique for embroidery for this one. I grabbed a plain piece of regular old printer paper and I'm drawing a design that I like. Now, I will say that I did keep the moon where I wanted it and I kept a couple stars, but I did not end up drawing as, or should I say stitching or embroidering, as many stars as I drew here. So you can kind of ignore those. Then I took my paper, laid it in the center of my piece of fabric, and pinned it down. Once I've gotten nice and secure, I'm just going to go in with my gold thread and stitch right on top of the paper. Now I will say I've done this before, and when I've done it before, I used really small stitches, which seem to work a lot better when removing the paper. Using large stitches like I do here was a bit difficult later on. Because my moon is so big and I don't have a large embroidery hoop, I just stitched it as is. It ended up okay. It was a little bit difficult and tugged at times, but for the most part it ended up okay. Just really take your time with this. When I was all done with the moon and my biggest star, I removed my pins just to see what we were looking like, because at that point was when I was like, maybe this is too many stars. I'm just sectioning out my paper piece by piece as carefully as possible and just ripping it in between the seams. Like I said, this was much easier to rip when I've done this previously with really small stitches as opposed to these bigger ones, so be very gentle. I know this is sped up, but I really tried to be gentle and take my time with this, and if you try this, make sure you do that as well so that you don't pull any thread through or any knots or anything like that. When I finally had all that paper removed, I went back in and just added, I believe, 2 more stars, and that was it. I felt like that sufficed for what I wanted for this piece. I was trying to show you how I was stitching it, but my camera work is mediocre at this part, so please forgive me. I was more focused on doing the stitching than I was filming it. When that was done, I'm going to glue it exactly like I did the first one, just tugging from edge to edge on each side of my piece and just rotating around every single time that I was doing it. I was just checking every once in a while to make sure everything was even. Like that time I didn't like how it was, so I'm redoing it here quick. But same process as last time. Here I am working on those edges again, so again I'm just sticking my finger in there to create a crease and then folding it over itself and wrapping it around the back of the canvas. I try to show you this a couple times so you can see what I'm doing, and that way it's got an invisible edge instead of having to create a fold that you can see from the side of your canvas, which you would see if it was hanging up. Last but not least, it was a bit difficult to see the moon and the stars as they were, and even though it's a subtle touch, on purpose, it was a little bit too subtle. So I took this bronzish, goldish metallic marker that I got from the dollar store, and I am just tracing around where my stitching was to help it pop a little bit more, and I think this really helped. Again, this is one of those similar to the last one where it really looks better in person because you can see all those gorgeous details in the sun canvas, in the moon canvas, but it's all honestly worth it. So I'm glad I went the extra mile for this one, even if you can't quite tell in the pictures. I'd love to know what you all thought of these DIYs, so please let me know down below, and don't forget to check out Wendy's channel and her collab video, which will also be linked down below. See you next time!